the People's Station.
89.9 KMOJ, the People Station, Twin Cities. It's your girl, Glam Life Kim, and it is 1 o'clock, so you know what time it is on Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
I've got one of my favoriteest people here in the Twin Cities with me, and that's Mr. Anthony Taylor. How are you today, bro?
My favoriteest sister. Like I can't even lie to you. I'm hot.
Oh, I know
it's
it is hot. You know what? I'm not complaining. I like the heat though. And then we don't get it long enough, so I'm gonna take it. I'm just gonna shut up and take it.
I know. Hey, y'all know how we talk about the weather all the time. I don't know if I can take this. Right? This is a little bit hot. You know,
it was 100 degrees just about yesterday.
I know that,
99
and it feels like 155 today. So I don't know what's going on.
Oh my God! You said 155. Like you're super hot.
Yeah, I'm super hot. I'm hot. But you look good. You always come in here looking fly.
Look, it's a hat day today.
It's a hat day today.
Today is hat day. I'm trying to get some braids or something because it's gonna be so hot.
It's gonna be hot.
Yeah,
I know. Looking outside, I ain't seeing too many people come to the beauty salon. I don't know if they,
your hair gonna get sweaty.
I know that sweat the edges out. That's not a good look, right?
That's why I got on the hat today.
I heard that. Listen, I'm lucky, Minneapolis. I ain't got no hair, but still, I ain't got nothing to protect that sweat that come down my face.
Or the burn.
Oh, my God. Hey, bald-headed problems, y'all. So that's me. Hey, Minneapolis, welcome. I am so happy to be here. My name is Anthony Taylor with the city of Minneapolis. This is Minneapolis 360 every second and fourth Monday or Wednesday of the month at 1 o'clock. Always my blessing, y'all. We talking about the weather, but y'all outside listening, y'all feel it. So if you're in your car, you got the AC. If you're on the bus stop, man, please just make sure that you protect yourself. You know, we got that melanin, people, so that don't mean we still can't get burned. So, like, protect yourself, wear some layers, put some sunscreen on. I think last time when I had talked, too, just checking in on your elders, too, y'all. I mean, if there's people elderly in your family, just check on them and see. They might not be as mobile as they used to, but it's hot. But just protect yourself, stay hydrated, do all of that
Drink
stuff.
Lots of water.
Drink lots of water. You know, just take some time out, and if you got to conduct some business, if it can be after the sun go down, cool. One of the things I'm gonna say just real quick: don't be outside mowing your lawn and this stuff, man. Either, man. Put your lawnmower up and all that.
Let
stuff.
the grass grow.
Let the grass grow. You will not get talked about today if your grass ain't looking up to par.
Right?
Do it tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? But just protect yourself. I see way too many stories of people falling out crazy because they out there mowing their grass in 100%
and we definitely
humidity.
Need that.
We're going to need that for sure. But, hey, listen, y'all, I'm gonna blow your minds real quick what we're going to talk about today. But I'll get to that. So I just want to stay tuned, maybe a little tease. It's going to kind of make you feel some type of way when I tell you about our topic. But at the end of the day, I always want to make sure I give just a couple quick announcements for folks so they can understand what's kind of going on. We all know, we've talked about this before, about cannabis, marijuana being legal as of August 1st in the state of Minnesota. Just to make sure, I promise people that we'll talk about that. We'll have somebody to come on and talk about some rules and regulations around cannabis, understanding that the official state office is not up yet, so there's kind of a lot of different ways that people are interpreting rules, but just understand for our folks too who are not U.S. citizens, you cannot participate in growing, using, or possessing of or selling of marijuana. So just be careful from our undocumented folks, because that's really serious. But to really learn more, Thursday, August 10th from 4 to 6, there'll be an online Twin Cities immigration forum. You can check more about that at IRA at minneapolismn.gov, or you can reach out to the Office of Immigrant and Refugees Affairs at 612-394-6018. So I just want to make sure that our folks know that you are not a citizen, that, you know, those laws don't apply to you. So just, you know, be careful with that. That's all I want to say. City of Minneapolis has approved $5.8 million investment in Minneapolis Homes program, and I talked about that a little bit last time we were on the show, but the city wants to eliminate disparities in home ownership so families can have access to wealth building opportunities and home ownership. So city is planning on converting 21 vacant lots or buildings into 40 affordable housing homes. So with additional 47 homes, Kim, to be able to be planned in the future. So we all know about the housing problem in this city, and this is another way that the city is trying to help If you want more information, go to minneapolismn.gov. Search for Minneapolis Homes. I think that's super important. And, y'all, I talked about stable homes, stable school programs expanding for Minneapolis students. So beginning in the fall, there are 350 families a year will be part of that Housing Stability Fund, and it provides emergency assistance to families in risk of losing their home. So in all 43 elementary schools, with the chance to add an additional 5 schools for 24 eligible sites, you're able to be qualified for a rental assistance program for families in emergency experiencing homelessness, just to provide some affordable housing. So more information, go to minneapolismn.gov/news. It'll give you all that valuable information. You can always call 311 to get more information on that as well. But just really trying to help folks. These resources, Minneapolis, I think is important. If you don't know, you have to be able to tap in, right, Kim?
Right, yes, and spread the word.
Yes,
we
right?
Can't say that enough.
We talk about we can't hoard this information, right? Because somebody knows somebody that knows somebody.
Man, and so please let that person know what you found out that could be helpful
That
for
could
them.
be helpful, yeah. So it just could mean that you're right, don't mean that somebody ain't right and you can help somebody else.
Right.
Right, so beautiful thing, y'all. And listen, lastly, before I get to how I'm going to blow y'all mind just in a minute, so hold tight. We all know about the Metro Blue Line Extension project, right? So it's been evaluating a lot of different spots. So really what we're talking about, options for the Blue Line between Target Field and West Broadway to be expanded to Northwest Brooklyn Park from Target Field. Kind of connecting those northwest suburbs to the city. However, we've been talking about this, at least in community, a lot about the possibility of that maybe coming through West Broadway. There is a lot of people who are not happy with that at all.
KMOJ is affected by it.
KMOJ is affected by it. I know if you've been really tapping into this information, I know Freddie was talking about that too as well in an interview that I saw about how that affects this station and this corridor, right? So you need to tap in and take this survey, Minneapolis, to figure out just exactly what is going on, have your opinion be heard. If you go to yourblueline.org, you can click that survey, tell folks how you feel. There's a lot of people, Kim, that feel some type of way about that, right?
Yeah, people are not happy. It's affecting businesses. It's affecting homes.
All that. All that. So, and you know, we always talk about, you know, gentrification and what that can happen. But listen, I just want to make sure that folks know what's going on. And a lot of people do.
Yes. And hey, speak up and get involved and, you know, at least find out what's going on. Don't wait till the last minute.
Yes. Don't wait till the last minute.
And then you're mad.
and then somebody done made a decision for you. Like I always tell our people, like, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, so you need to be at the table when these community events come on Minneapolis and these surveys. Take your time to do it.
Yes, you have to.
Be involved. Hey, now listen, I done teased y'all enough, y'all. Listen, let me get to it. Hey, listen, it is that time of the year, y'all. We are talking back to school topics, vaccinations, and all of those things.
Supplies.
School
I'm
supplies.
glad I don't have to worry. You guys still got to worry about that.
Man, school supplies, clothes, all of that, right?
It's a lot of work.
And it's coming up, y'all, because listen, we always know that at the time when Labor Day comes that we kind of trying to transition in the fact that our babies are going back to school.
Right.
And I know it's a whole bunch of y'all clapping like, yes, like, yes, y'all. Moms and dads across the world talking about, yes, I can't wait to get back to school. But the thing about it is that we need to make sure that we have our students vaccinated across all levels, right? So we always talk about it, and you can see in the fact when you go to Target, Walmart, there's always these big specials and all these sections with all the back to school stuff. But listen, man, August is National Immunization Month, and the health department is using this time to draw attention to the importance of getting kids fully vaccinated, right? Like, a little bit of information, y'all. 2 out of every 5 Minneapolis kids are not up to date with their childhood vaccinations. Approximately 3 in 5 Minneapolis teenagers are not up to date on their adolescent vaccinations. We know that there are a lot of kids who need their vaccinations by kindergarten so they can get in kindergarten. Only 71% of Minneapolis kids from birth to 4 years old have to have their first measles shots. So it's just not, y'all, about the COVID. It's about measles. It's about all of those things. And just really what I want to make sure that we understand this, to put it in perspective, a little more than half of Minneapolis 15 and 19-year-olds have only received their first shots to be vaccinated against meningitis and HPV. Okay. So that's tough, right? So we got to start talking about that. I got a guest on that I met earlier today from the health department, Elizabeth Govrik-McCoy. She's from the health department. She's a community outreach and education specialist for the city of Minneapolis. Elizabeth, welcome to Minneapolis 360. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on with you and Kim. You know, just listening about this weather, I will say I agree with Kim. I like these hot, steamy days because, you know, our days are numbered. And so, you know, just get out while you can. It's like, do I brave the fair starting this week in this hot weather? But I'm excited to be here, so thank you.
Yeah,
me and Kim, she's doing it a better job than mine. We always talk about how we're going to embrace winter, and then we get to winter, we don't embrace winter, and then we get to summer, and it's too hot, and I don't embrace it, but Kim do, so I'll be on the mic front, and that's what I'll be doing.
There's no happy medium.
There's no happy medium. Hey, Elizabeth.
No, there's not.
Elizabeth, tell us what you do. Tell us a little bit about you. Who are you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so, you know, I'm born and raised in Minneapolis, working for the health department since 2018. I've now transitioned into the maternal, child, and adolescent division. Specifically, my work is detailed with vaccines, COVID, but really, you know, I will say I have a pretty fun job. I get to be out in the community, interacting with community, face-to-face on the ground, and so I love it. Yeah,
and it's a beautiful thing, and I have a lot of respect for the health department because they do a lot of great things, and especially always willing to come provide information, whether it's on the radio or through tabling events in the city. Health department has always been great partners with other community members in Minneapolis. So now if we're talking about vaccinations, right, and some of the data that you've witnessed on Minneapolis children who are not up to date on vaccinations, kind of talk about some concerns and some worries that you have when you talk about these numbers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, you know, you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like that time back to school, and it's like we're so consumed as a parent myself with like, oh, get the school supplies, get, you know, like the backpacks, like the outfits and whatnot, and it's really important as our young ones are heading back to school that we do our part as a community in getting our young ones vaccinated. Because, you know, of course we want to keep, you know, our families safe. We want to keep ourselves safe, our kids safe, but also too just our community safe, and that's a collective effort. You know, the Minneapolis Health Department, we're concerned at any time when a person's health isn't fully protected, and that's why I think the biggest thing is just like encouraging our community, encouraging parents and caregivers to just review their child's vaccines, you know, with their doctor and their providers, just making sure that they're up to date.
Mm-hmm. Talking with Elizabeth from the health department, talking about vaccinations, back to school items. Oh, I know it's tough to say. Like, listen, like, so from what I'm hearing and what I'm reading, right, so there's some statistics about Minneapolis, and really what it boils down to is that only 2 out of 5 children in Minneapolis aren't up to date on their childhood vaccinations. Talk about the risk and the concerns with not being up to date with your childhood vaccinations.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, the obvious, right? Like, you think about just being able to protect yourself, and if you're not, you know, able to do that, or you're not doing that, then, you know, your child could potentially get sick with, you know, preventable diseases. For example, measles, which, you know, can have some serious implications if one is infected. Another thing that we don't think about until the time arises, like you think even just something so simple as like, you know, like think about like if your child, you know, I have 3 young ones at home, and when they're sick, it's like, we're not just going off to work. We are staying home and caring for our kids at that time. And so, for some that might be easier, but recognizing that that's not always the case with our families, right? And so even if like parents or guardians are going to school, like they have classes to take or they are working, you're not able to do that. You have to stay home and care for your child. And so it's just that domino effect that we're talking about. Also, parents would also need to know those symptoms and signs of each of these preventable diseases to ensure, like, are they sick? Are they not? And that's something that we experience, too, with just thinking about, like COVID or flu and, our minds were kind of going crazy and still doing, like, oh, no, like, do I have this? Do I have that? But it's like, if I'm doing my part in keeping my child vaccinated, then it's like it kind of takes, I don't know, just like that burden off of feeling a little less stressed of like, okay, like I know, like maybe it's something, but not because, I got my child vaccinated. So really just thinking about keeping our family safe. Another example, or you think about like if, my child has chicken pox, right? And then they're around their grandma and they then could pass it on, and which can develop into shingles, which is something very painful. Right. And so just thinking about like that snowball effect of like the choices that we make and the decisions, and just being best informed to not only protect ourselves and our young ones, but our entire, our families and our community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm talking with Elizabeth from the Minneapolis Health Department, and great information, right? Because I think a lot of times we live with our extended family, our elders, right? Mm-hmm. Super don't want to cause any stress or any illness and passing it along to our elders. Just talk a little bit like why some of the delays, right? We know there's been a lot of challenges over the last couple of years, but just give us maybe a hint on why we have some delay in these vaccinations not getting done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, as we all know, like the pandemic has created such a barrier on many levels for so many things. And we, who knows when we're going to get back on track with everything. Just a lot of things in our day-to-day that now we've had to learn how to navigate in different ways, and things still don't look the same. And that's kind of the same with just like this barrier of like parents keeping their children up to date. Like I mentioned that I have 3 of my own kids, and I think prior to the pandemic, how it was like clockwork. It was like, okay, they're well child visit, like, all right, like we're going to, like I'm going to be on track with their vaccines. And it's like, now it's like, sure, I'm scheduling those, but it's like, oh, it's like a month later, or, because that's not right now, like, it hasn't been a priority. Other things have been our priorities for so long. And so, many families like my own just got off track with their yearly schedule of visiting with their providers or their doctors, therefore falling behind. And then, too, just like recognizing that there has been misinformation about vaccines, and a lot of information that you second guess or you think about, or does this apply to me? Which then creates challenges for parents to get that right information. And that's why it's so important to, seek out a provider or doctor that you are comfortable with, where you're able to ask those questions, where you're able to, feel comfortable and heard, to just get your child back on track.
Yeah, and I'm glad you talked about that too, because one of the things, like when we hear vaccinations, we've been so socialized to hear just vaccinations, right?
COVID.
So always COVID. Vaccination equal COVID a lot of people, right?
Mindset has changed.
It's changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, talk about that, Kim, a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was thinking, some people even probably haven't taken it as serious because they're like, oh, Lord, it's another COVID vaccination.
Right.
And it's just like, there's some people just kind of feel like, it's not necessary, or we'll get through it, or we'll get past it.
Exactly.
And don't understand, especially, when our babies are in these classrooms with so many other kids. And, it spreads so fast amongst them, way faster than it spreads between us.
100%. And it's about the measles, the mumps. It's like, it's so,
I forgot about chickenpox.
Chickenpox, exactly. The reason why that resonated with both of us, because there's a lot of that stuff that you have to account for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Elizabeth, when you're talking about that, like, so, like, if I've been dying for my baby to get back to school because she's been driving me crazy, he's been driving me crazy, and he's got these chicken pox, like, can I send him to school? What's, like, is that a no-no? Do I got to wait?
You're going to have a lot of parents mad at you.
That's a really good point and question, and I like how you Kim, you touched on just like, oh, when I'm thinking vaccinations, like everyone's thinking COVID, but really, like, we want to get to a point where we're having these healthy conversations and it's all wrapped into one, like where it's all, that is on schedule of like getting our child back on track. These are all a part of that. But yeah, Anthony, to answer your question, like if you're we're so excited to get those kids back to school, and unfortunately they're diagnosed with measles, then they would have to stay home. And it's one of those things where it's like we've experienced, like we know, like you're quarantined and you have to stay home. And how that can affect also, maybe siblings in the home that they didn't get sick, but also they've been exposed, to this vaccine preventable illness, and they're not vaccinated. They also will have to stay home, and then it's like the parents, like parents or caregivers also have to stay home. And then it just kind of delays in this routine that we're all looking forward to, this back to school routine, right? Yep. It's just kind of that disruption again of like the stop and go. And that's why vaccination is so important. It allows our young ones to go to school, like their extracurricular sports, and two, just being around family and people they love to keep them safe.
Yeah.
Talking with Elizabeth from the health department. We're talking about school immunizations. If you got a quick question, please call up 612-377-3456. And Elizabeth, like we've talked a lot about the children. What concerns you about teenagers and being up to date on their vaccinations?
Yeah, it's the same. Talking about when going back to school and how the pandemic had affected, really everyone, but too, like our teenagers, our high schoolers, like they also stopped seeing, their provider, doctor, regularly. Teenagers, like younger children, our younger kids, they also, too, will have to miss their activities. And we know, like, when they're in it, like, it's that sports season, it's not, or, like, they want to hang with their friends or, they're involved in other after-school things, they also, too, and that may be more challenging as they get older, like, maybe there's more schoolwork or maybe they're not able, it's not as lenient as, when they're younger. And so just, you can't, express just how important it is, like, to start getting vaccinated early and at the appropriate age. Therefore, it just kind of lessens like just that stress and just to keep them on track with like their vaccine schedule. So by the time they are older, it's like, yep, I'm right on schedule.
Right.
And for students at Minneapolis public high schools, like we have our school-based clinics, and where it's easy for students to get vaccinated. They can go to their clinic during school hours, and if they're just unsure, they can talk with staff about making sure that they are up to date on their vaccine. So
yeah, great information. I think that's super important to talk about that. I think a lot of times we get caught up in life. You know what I'm saying? We get caught up in life and
life starts life.
Life starts life, and exactly. And sometimes your priority is a lot more important than thinking about vaccinations.
Yeah.
So I'm super glad you had talked about that. As we wrap up the show, I want to kind of give you the last word because I got another question I want to ask you. And as you talked about a lot of different things, what are some of the big takeaways that you want to leave folks? When we're talking about school immunizations, like what are some key things that you want folks to really take away from this conversation?
Yeah, I think it's just really important to recognize that we can all do our part to protect our community. And that's the goal is to keep everyone healthy and safe. And again, recognizing there is a lot of information and it can be overwhelming and confusing, but that's why, just knowing, like, we just encourage you to talk with your doctor, your provider, and again, someone that you feel comfortable having those conversations, like asking those questions like, okay, well, you're talking about, immunizations, but what exactly, like, those questions that sometimes we shy away or we feel like we can't ask, and that's really important. But just recognizing that we can all do our part and that we should to protect our community and our families and those that we love.
Yeah, very good information. Again, Minneapolis, we got a couple minutes left with Elizabeth from the health department. If you got a quick question, call up 612-377-3456. Listen, this is what I wanted to ask you, Elizabeth. Like COVID is over, right? Like let's forget about COVID. COVID is over. It's over. I done heard people talk about COVID. It's done. Like I don't even know what COVID is no more.
Right? It's just went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, COVID is done, right, Elizabeth?
Yeah, Anthony, I wish I could say it's over and it's never coming back. But unfortunately, that is not true. COVID is very much still here. It's not going anywhere, but we, the health department, we're really proud of our community and how folks have really stepped up to the plate, getting vaccinated, continuing to get vaccinated, staying home when they're sick, still continuing to wear masks to help, reduce the spread of COVID. But like I said, it's, those little things, they do help, but COVID is still very much in our community. And that's why we need to continue to be cautious and to realize that it's still there and we still need to do things to keep ourselves safe. And that is, including like if you are vaccinated, to get vaccinated. And, same thing, thinking about like those immunization schedules too. It's the same for COVID. And two, there's talking with your provider, and there's ways to find the same way to find if you're not vaccinated or you're missing, you're getting caught up on your immunizations. There's we have ways of being able to help you to get back on track.
Yeah, and I'm glad you found my sarcasm in that conversation. Go ahead, Kim.
I was going to say, Elizabeth, so COVID is here, like the common cold or the flu, right? It's not going anywhere, right? So you guys...
It's not going anywhere.
Not going nowhere.
It's the new norm.
It's the new norm. Absolutely. Yep. And the thing about it is I think a lot of times we were so... COVID fatigue, Kim, that we couldn't wait to do a lot of the things that we did in the past. You know what I mean?
We came outside
we were outside. We was outside.
outside.
Yeah. So, hey, Elizabeth, I want to thank you for being on. And just real quick, we've got about 3 minutes left. You had mentioned something about the outline for schedule for kids about COVID. Can you talk about that quickly?
Yep. So 6 months if you have a really young one, 6 months to 5 years, who have already gotten their Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine, then they are up to date. If they're 6 months to 4 years old and they've received 3 COVID-19 vaccine doses, that includes at least one updated COVID-19 vaccine dose. And then 5 years old, and you got at least one updated COVID-19 dose. It's one of those things, Anthony, the same thing with that schedule. It's so important to consult like your provider, your doctor, when am I eligible again? Or like, okay, like my kid just was vaccinated. Like how long until they go again, until they need another shot? And so, if they're 6 years and older and we're talking about like that school readiness, get one updated Pfizer, Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, even if you've received the original COVID-19 vaccine.
Yeah. So great information. I appreciate you. I'm gonna ask a question to you I haven't asked because it hasn't been like 100 degrees since ever. I don't know, since I've been on the radio, right? Usually there's always some weather related stuff. Right. So real quick, Elizabeth, it's 105 degrees outside. There's an outdoor concert happening. Who would you choose to go to and sit outside in 100-degree heat? You got 2 tickets. Who would it be? One person.
If I'm going to go sit outside and see a concert in this heat, Who am I seeing?
Who are you seeing?
Ooh, and I'm a concert goer. I'm probably going to have to go old school. I've never seen Prince in person. I would definitely. I know he would really put on a great show. be hot and all.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
Great choice. And now with that answer, you're welcome back on the show anytime. So you passed the
Anthony,
test.
You passed the test.
Thank you.
Hey, Elizabeth, thank you for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for the information.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth.
You both too. Stay cool.
Thank you.
You too.
All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Kim, you answer that question. One
who
person, 100 degrees, 2 tickets. Who would
You
it
know, I am like so right now. I mean, if we talk about today, I love Vito, and he has not
Yes.
been here. And he's he's out there, but he's not out there. He's
Yeah.
like a newer artist. But I would definitely, I think that's one person. I feel like I've seen a lot of,
Right,
a lot of people in concerts. So I think if I had to sit and wait in 100 degree, it'd probably be for him just because I've never seen him.
Okay, all right, good. Listen, I don't know. I had to
As
think
you
about
said,
that.
nobody.
I'd be like,
The answer is
it's nobody. Yeah. Thank you, sister. Always good to see you.
Always good to see you too. Great show today.
Thank you.
All right, Twin Cities. Hey, we're going to get back into the music, but before we do, don't forget we are at the Minnesota State Fair starting tomorrow. So come on down and see us. We'll be on the corner, just off the corner of Judson and Close Street. Come dance with the DJs.
All right.
All right, Twin Cities. Up next, Free Mind, Tim's.